Yeah, this is the Trade and Commerce Committee of the City of Los Angeles and Tourism. I'm joined by Joe Buscaino, the great councilman of the 15th. I have my little brother Bobby on the phone, and I'm showing him that I'm a big cheese at City Hall. See you, Bobby. Okay. Excuse me. I can strike that from the record. Good morning. I just took a call right before that, and that was my brother. And it's always good to talk to family, but now we're talking to the community family of Los Angeles. This is the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee. This is the 26th day of August, as August is really racing by. I'm pleased to have Mr. Buscaino with me, and Mr. Bonnet is excused for today. If I could have the legislative analyst call the first item, a very special member of our community for a possible reappointment to the commission.
Yes, under item 1, the mayor submits for confirmation his reappointment of Mr. Alan David Arian to the Board of Harbor Commissioners for a full 5-year term ending on June 30th, 2019. And committee members should be aware that we have not yet received the Commissioner's Statement of Economic Interests.
Correct, and what we're going to ask... he's worth millions. Well, everybody's worth millions. He's worth billions. Okay. We've asked the Harbor Department to expedite that because we want to get you appointed in council today, if we could. Dave, thank you. Tell us a little about your experience and how important it is to have the community voice there. And I really want to compliment you, Mr. Buscaino, and always Janice Hahn. That's a standard with me. Yep. But the Harbor Department and its commission and Cynthia Ruiz last Saturday night made me feel like I'm home. Yeah. And to see the joy of the community together in celebrating what is a great part of Los Angeles. So it's good to have a local man on the committee.
Well, you know, the good thing is it's good to be here again, and the good thing about the commission this time is I used to be the main local guy, and now we got Anthony Perosi, we got Patty Castellano, both commissioners living in San Pedro, and it really has enhanced our ability to reflect what the community wants, you know, in a real way, and beyond that, understanding how important the port is to the city of LA, to the state, and to the whole country. You know, coming on the second time onto the commission, I think the importance right now is with the new director, the real question facing the port today is how we maintain our #1 status and our financial base. The industry has changed. It's fundamentally changed, and just very simply, it used to be as a landlord port, if we rented out a terminal, we knew that the APL ships were going to go to APL, the cargo is going to go to APL. Today, with the new alliances, ships go anywhere, cargo goes anywhere, and terminals have become commodities, which means our relationship to these terminals have to change. That started a couple of years ago, and with the new leadership, it's accelerating where we now see ourselves in a position where we need to be partners with each of the 7 terminals, add value to the terminals, stuff like a great chassis fleet, a number of other things need to be done to expedite cargo movement through the port. And I think we're positioned to do that, to keep our #1 status. Secondly, you were there, Joe was there this last weekend. A real statement was made about the potential and the possibility of economic development in an economic zone in the harbor. When you deal with bridge to breakwater, you're dealing with 8 miles of real estate that doesn't exist anywhere else in LA and maybe in the state and maybe in this country. And I think we just have a great opportunity to develop that. I think we're going to have to make some changes the way the Harbor Department's structured in dealing with economic development, different than we have in the past. We've been a port that negotiates great contracts when it comes to container facilities, and when it comes to commercial development, it's a little bit different. Yes. So that needs to change. With the support of the City Council and the Mayor, this economic development needs to be looked at just like Staples Center, you know, just like Hollywood or anything else, as an asset to the whole city and how we work together to build that asset. And even though it's based in the harbor and we know we are the anchor, it's really a citywide concept that we need to build in the port. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the new leadership, and I know Joe, as our city councilman, you know, has really placed an emphasis, and you need that. You need that political leadership if we're going to make these changes. It just can't come from the harbor department. It's got to be the mayor, the city council, and our councilman leading us down that path, and I think we're positioned well.
Thanks, Dave, for your leadership. And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Arian and I had a great discussion yesterday in my office, a lengthy discussion on exactly what he just mentioned, on ensuring that we remain America's #1 port, but also focus on the commercial retail development. And just your opening comments really inspires me to continue to lead this effort and work alongside you and your colleagues. I need to recognize Mayor Garcetti's commitment in putting the right people in this commission. When you have 3 members of the commission who live in the area is just a testament to the mayor's commitment to have that local voice. We've seen significant improvements in the environmental issues evolving around the Port of Los Angeles, along with the Port of Long Beach, in reducing emissions. Tell me your experience, Commissioner, on the last 5 years, and where do you see the port going in the next 5 years?
Well, I think the experience the first 5 years is when I came on the commission, it was very clear that we were locked into a certain pattern based on the environmental questions that were facing us. And when Geraldine came in under the last mayor, it was clear that for 7 years we were unable to do any development in the port because of environmental issues and lawsuits. Those issues were resolved primarily with the leadership of Geraldine Knatz. But I think in the process of resolving those issues, we invested a lot of our capital base in non-revenue generating projects that maybe we had to do. Clearly $55–60 million in the park in Wilmington, a series of things in LA, in the Port of LA, from bridge to breakwater. But it was what had to be done to get us off moving forward. When I came in, I looked at the capital investment, and I think 1 year it was nearly 18% of our capital investment was in non-revenue generating projects, which means you can't sustain a business like that. I think that's changed now. And where I see us going now is I see us being able to become the most efficient, not only the cleanest port, but the most efficient port.
Yeah, tell us about your efforts in the efficiency in leading that subcommittee.
Yeah, but I believe that, what happened with the Clean Air Program, it set a standard for the whole world, and we've been the leader in that. But now we have to set a different standard, and we have to become the most efficient port. We have to find ways of incentivizing efficiencies in the port with our terminal operators, and with that, generating enough capital so that we can support projects, whether it's Ulta-C, whether it's the Ports of Call development, or other projects that may take place in Wilmington. And the key to that is bringing in enough money to do it. I always tell my friend Anthony Perosi, I'm going to help raise the money, you can go spend it, So I think that's our future. I think that's where we're going.
Late last year, we struggled in this committee with moving forward on supporting the Commission's decision on the cost overruns of TRAPAC, $550 million, and we knew we needed to make that happen in order to keep up with technology and competition around ports across the world. But when I see the Commission's decision on this last this budget that was approved of only $1.2 million on the expansion of Sampson Way, which is needed with overall retail commercial development along the waterfront, I was taken aback, and we talked about this yesterday, that in a heartbeat the port says yes to the $550 million, but we struggle with the financial commitment with the infrastructure of the Ports Call redevelopment. Share with us your comments, what we discussed yesterday on why that happened.
Well, first on Ulta-C, we signed a contract on Ulta-C which we will fulfill, and our initial obligation is, I think, somewhere around $60 to $70 million based on Ulta-C raising the money that they agreed to. So we have a contractual relationship, and we know that we have the money there available as needed. We know we're not going to need the money this year for Ulta-C, unless something changes. And if something changes, we have reserve funds that can be activated to deal with that. In terms of the Port Sakal development, we don't have a contractual agreement yet with the developer. And until we do, the idea of making a commitment on finances, from my opinion, isn't going to happen until we have that contractual agreement.
Would you agree, though, that we would need the infrastructure done regardless who the developer is?
Certain things we got to do infrastructure-wise. Sampson Way we got to do no matter what. The other thing that we're already doing over on the other side of the bay on Terminal Island at the old Southwest Marine is we're resolving environmental issues so that Yankovich, which is right at Port Sakal, can move across the bay, and I think that's a $3.5 million commitment. So we're taking many steps infrastructure-wise. Whether this contract is signed with the developers or not, these are things we have to do. This is what we've been committed to. And I think we're going to follow through. And like I say, there is reserves that we can use if needed. But we first, I've negotiated contracts for 40 years. And until we have a firm commitment from the developers, at Port Sakal, the idea of us putting money into the budget for this year when there's not a need for it didn't make a lot of sense, I think.
Do you believe in a new and improved Port Sakal development?
Oh, I do. I think I would qualify that, though. There are two things that has to remain whoever gets a contract. And number one, the fish market, and number two, Port Sakal restaurant, because they're highly successful businesses. And either we move them, and we don't move them until we built another structure for them so they don't lose any business, or if we leave them there and build around them, those are going to be one of the two options. But that's my precondition. Other than that, we can redevelop the whole rest of Port Sakal any way a developer sees fit. But we know that the fish market does 10 to 15,000 meals on the weekend. They sell more Corona than anywhere in California, So, this is a good place.
And what I told the Ungaro brothers, we want them to sell 20,000 plates every week, every day of the week. I'm just excited about moving forward and continuing to work alongside you, Dave, and to hear your passion, your commitment, not only to improve the efficiencies in our port, but also ensure that we move forward on commercial retail development along our LA waterfront on both Wilmington and San Pedro sides. And you've heard me. I can't be more passionate about this issue and working with the mayor and his team and making this happen. I want to say something. If you heard me say this the other day when we opened the Tall Ship Festival, the Port of Los Angeles needs to see economic development, retail commercial development along our waterfront, not as a donation, but as an investment to the city, to the state. Looking at the highest and best use of our waterfront is something that we need to continue to move forward on. And to hear your commitment in moving forward, I strongly support you and support this reappointment. I can't be more passionate about one issue of moving this forward. Because again, if it's happened in Hollywood and Highland under the direction of then council member Eric Garcetti, if it's happened at LA Live, it can happen here on such an underutilized waterfront. We are the last standing port that's not a destination, that's not an attraction in this country. And yes, the fish market brings in volume on the weekends. We want people to come in every single day of the week. And I'm hoping in the ENA process that this developer that's been selected, we're 2 years into this now. I'm banging my head here. I'm going to be pounding my fist to get some results. I know we're waiting on the feasibility study coming up. But we need movement and we need some wins that we can prove not only to the residents of this district, but the entire city that it is possible. So with that, Mr. Chair, I support this reappointment of Commissioner Arian. And unfortunately, your newest son-in-law, the newest member of your family.
You bring somebody in the family and they don't show up to dinner, you know what I mean?
But we know Mr. Vaughn is supportive as well.
Hey, I just wanted to say, too, I support Dave, and thank you very much. I think just a suggestion, because time moves so quickly, I referenced that we're in the middle of August. If you would want to have 4 times a year a place card on this committee,
yes,
that would just talk about the issue of the waterfront.
Standing committee, yeah. We have a standing motion on it, absolutely.
But here,
Bring it in.
right here, and just to get updates, because all of a sudden it's 2015, then it's 2016,
Right.
17, 18. I just hiked this morning in the Lake Hollywood area where one of my goals originally was to acquire more land for the Griffith Park extension. And we had required about 600 acres, but it takes time. So just as a suggestion, because you talk about 2 years, you have some great people at the port that are right here behind you. And Dr. Nance did a great job as getting the environmental done, which is necessary. And I was so impressed to see the community amenities that were there when I went down to Beacon Street looking for some of the old places, but I couldn't find them. Cleaned them up, Joe. And then I drove down and around, and I stopped by the terminal, and everybody was listening to great rock and roll and seeing the water and running through the separated pools. Not in the pools, but it was community. It was very fanfare fountain, so special. So congratulations. We'll see you in council. We need the ethics. Very good. Super. We need the form to do that. Very good. Let's turn them into the clerk.
And
we
I
have
just say that, I'm looking forward, and it would be good for us to come up here on a regular basis because we need a partnership.
Well, we're going to come down there. Our next committee, we're going to try to get the next 60 days down there, and we'll be.
But the Commissioner's right. We need to find cooperation between the city,
Right.
especially those parking structures. That we have public-private partnerships with parking lots all over the city. Why not
And
here?
it may be something like the San Pedro Waterfront Authority that works under the guise of the Harbor Department, which has the thing, but that authority that ties in the city.
We're always willing to
Yeah.
listen to good
Yeah.
suggestions about how we move forward.
Right. Good.
So
Thank you. We have one public comment card. Public comment is 1 minute. Mr. Herman?
Congratulations.
Run the clock.
The appointment. I want to point out that, yes, infrastructure should always be the main construction going on in the port, especially when we have volume of people attending the activities during the weekend. I find it disturbing that, Eric Martel and the people from the ethics are a little late. To conduct city business, we should be prompt and on time when we create a schedule and a time of appointment. And since I've got 33 seconds, I want to point out that, again, under Senator Ms. Campos from San Jose, your AB Bill 194 failed. Again, it's the public's
Speak
right.
to the issue of the commissioner,
It's the public's
please.
right, whether we're late or on time, to continue to speak on behalf of the public's interest when it comes to reappointments, when it comes to commissioners throughout the city. For we are the delegates, and it's under our sovereignty as a public that we delegate who we want in office, not the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Recommend approval. Send it to council for today. Item number 2. Staff, you could stay down for a second. Item number 2.
Yes. Do you want to ask the ethics staff whether they will be able to distribute the forms
Yes, they will be able to distribute the forms, correct?
to council?
Jenny?
Yeah, okay. Why don't do sidebars? So item number 2, then you run the meeting.
Yeah.
Item number 2,
Okay.
please call it in.
Under item
Hold on.
2,
Okay, we'll hold item number 1 if we can hear item number 2.
under item 2, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the 9th Amendment to its contract with outside counsel Kay Scholar for the continuation of legal services relating to ongoing federal regulatory and litigation matters. The amendment would add $2.26 million to the compensation authority for a total contract amount of $7.16 million over a term of 9 years, ending in November 2015. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation on this contract amendment.
Great. Okay. CAO's good with it?
Good morning. Bill Kreitzer, the CAO's office. We have reviewed this and we recommend approval.
Good. In the department?
Yes, Brian Osler, Deputy City Attorney, and
You've looked at it well?
absolutely.
Thank you so much. We have one public comment card. Any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Herman?
Under this item, amendment for the contract of federal regulatory and litigation matters, it's time that the process of litigation for legal services relate to public interests and not special interests. Because transparency should always be the most effective, comprehensive understanding to how local government, state government, and more so federal government must regulate the cost, the abuse, and the waste by these proposals of amendments, regardless if it's the 9th Amendment. I'm speaking about our First Amendment, and that is the First Amendment of the people to be heard with transparency and conclusive evidence of how the legal process of litigation shall be paid from 2.2 to 17.6. What is the rationale of this?
Okay, Mr. Buscaino, you support it? Move approval. So ordered. On items number 3 and 4, approved by the Airport Board of Commission, we're going to do consent. So we'll act on those items. We thank you. When are they going to be in council?
These items?
3 and 4.
Items 3 and 4 will probably be after the recess, which would be more than likely September 9th.
Do you need it any sooner? Okay, good. So ordered. On consent, thank you on that. That completes the agenda. One public comment card, Mr. Herman. Hey, run the clock. Mr. Herman.
Since you run the time and I'm only allowed 1 minute, a guide to disability rights and laws. You continue as an organization, as an agency, to violate the rights of persons with disability for your sole purpose of not implementing ideas for future tourism, but also in the relation to how people with disabilities are actively a part of your proposals for infrastructure. So when you take into account the idea of what you plan to build and extend at the ports, especially in Mr. Joe Buscaino's 16th district, we don't want convenience and necessity for bars. No. We want you to respond to the guidelines under disability rights and laws, and in the future, allow me 2 minutes and not the discriminatory 1 minute.
Thank you. This meeting is concluded. And by the way, Mr. Clerk, 1 minute public comment is my effort in this meeting. Have a good day, everybody. Serve the city well. Thank you.